So now let's turn to social responsibility and your marketing. What is our responsibility in all this? So, social responsibility is the idea that organizations are part of a larger society's welfare. And ethics ultimately guide what we consider to be the socially responsible thing to do. Per chapter 1, many of us find the marketing concept encourages us to think in terms of being mindful of immediate stakeholders, but then also the larger society. Many organizations and groups create ethical codes, which are formal statements of principles and rules of conduct. They are guidelines to help employees know what business practices are acceptable, and we're not just talking dress code here. That goes elsewhere, but in terms of behaviors for conducting business. This is from the American Marketing Association, so you can click here for the full one. And it includes things like what are our cultural values and all that. And it's available. This link as I point here. So as you can imagine, best results happen when the organization, of course, actually complies. They cannot just turn around and punish whistleblowers, those who call out the firm's misdeeds. If there are feelings that the top leaders of the company are not following these, the rank and file will do likewise. So ethical codes should account for different norms and laws in different countries as well, and effectively, it's something that needs to be evaluated and done with care. So, just a reminder here from your book that what's considered ethical or proper marketing practice can change. For example, just previously, prior to 1960s, the emphasis was caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. In other words, good luck, consumer, try not to make mistakes. Oh, too bad. And it's still a little bit today, even. But ethics has shifted toward that marketing concept, delivering customer value. Here, four rights outlined by President Kennedy, which exemplified what American culture tends to expect from marketers. In his message, President Kennedy discussed market society had grown increasingly complex, and there's often an imbalance between the buyer and seller in terms of like knowledge, power, or ability. Therefore, he wished to bring about change to stress four rights consumers should have: the right to safety, to be informed, to choose, and to be heard. You can feel free to click on the link to see the extended comments from the JFK Presidential Library. And in sum, there's a shift toward more consideration toward the consumer, which, as we will show, is very much in line with how modern business now aims to take care of stakeholders and, of course, fulfill that marketing concept. Another part the book does cover is how marketing ethics deals with the ethics of competition. The book's got many examples. So, for example, one of their big things is espionage. Illegal, but still happens. If you're interested, there's a lot of activities, and including an activity in the extra items section at the very end of the slides, which gives different scenarios in which such espionage might happen. Remember, it's not just a matter of digging through trash, but any type of improperly discovered trade secrets, from eavesdropping or gaining cus- customer information or effectively competitor materials. In this example, Google's Waymo and Uber were facing off whether an ex-employee brought proprietary knowledge to Uber, and they've since settled. Bribes and kickbacks, another issue that's increasingly being addressed through codified policies across different industries and trade organizations to stop these practices. It gets sticky though, because whether it's a gift and to others it may be a bribe, a lot of that depends on culture and perspectives on how much damage is done versus what is achieved. So things like um, something to grease the wheels versus making a politician change their mind on something. In the football world, or soccer for the rest of us in the States, was rocked by the FIFA kickback scandal more recently. So, in sum, espionage, bribes, and kickbacks and other actions are often illegal. So, watch what you do with care. So, here's an example when dilemmas intertwine both buyers and sellers. This clip from The Simpsons is poking fun at the saying, it fell off the back of a truck. When some goods fell off the back of a truck, it is to suggest that the seller probably didn't come by the goods by legitimate means. But what is your responsibility when you buy stolen goods? What's your responsibility when you buy stolen proprietary knowledge? What are ways in which guilt or harm is more clear than others? Knowledge, ability to do one's diligence, extent of financial harm, benefits accrued by other parties such as building knowledge, or harmful contract? So here's an example of the issue of buyers and seller knowledge when it comes to proprietary knowledge as the product. So MOVA was a new motion capture technology that specialized in facial expression, so like this. Think the live action Beauty and the Beast or Deadpool in his mask. A court case centered on another part on effectively a court case centered on how one part of an original pair, LaSalle, and whether that LaSalle had the right to develop and sell this tech. Unfortunately, by this point, he had sold the assets to another company which had licensed its use to the other big studios. Many companies feel they now own the MOVA assets. So who had the right to approve sales? Did original company Reardon abandon the tech? What was the role of SHSTC Holdings, particularly given both pre and after the sale there was a chain of holding companies with the assets? Meanwhile, past this disputed sale, what happened? Big studios like Disney, Fox, and Paramount had been licensing this technology. How much should they have known? Perlman's Reardon LLC argued the studios should have known that they must either stop distribution or give a cut of the profits to Reardon. So what should the studios have done? What is the line of ownership? Especially when it comes to later creative or expressive works. This technology contributed to the creative work, but to what extent? So just an example to think about. So now let's turn back to thinking about our role. So one of the common ways we talk about ethical development is based on human psychology. They found that many people may follow certain morals for different reasons. Broadly speaking, pre-conventional morality, which is, what's in it for me? How do I avoid punishment? Next, conventional, how to be a good citizen in line with society. So I don't want to look bad. And post-conventional, what can I do beyond myself? Many models tend to include these three parts where one deals with the more immediate, practical goals of survival and self-centered goals, a second part with the expectations of others, or at least meeting standards, and the third representing a more proactive stance toward benefiting others. So here's your chart from the book, and you can see how the pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional morality categories nicely map onto the three concepts of social responsibility. You move from a more inward, often reactive focus to a more outward and active focus. In sum, the concept of social responsibility entails taking a wider set of actors when making your decisions because what you do matters to the welfare of others. So, to wrap up, here's another little mini activity. So, ethical perspectives. What fits? So, as an activity, stretch your ethical reasoning by seeing how different stakeholders experience or report their positions. So, go ahead and practice turning a critical eye on these positions and on your own thought processes. Notice you'll likely think in terms of two or more stakeholders, factors, impact, and potential outcomes. And so, list the reasons for, against, how would you defend it? And if you like, don't forget, in this section, there's an ethical impact framework if you need some inspiration for how to think about these different ethical dilemmas and just kind of lay it on out. But again, I encourage you to go ahead and take a look at these ethical perspectives and practice. How would you stand on a position? What are the factors? What do you want to do? So, with that, let me know if you have any questions. Our next section will talk a bit more about specifically corporate social responsibility and just seeing it as a strategic tool.